Of those bargains available in the mid-cap space. If you look at a stock like ICSA, it's been rallying up constantly. It's up 5% in trade today. Do you think some of the value is to be found in the mid-caps?
Definitely, yes, Shruti. I'm not against frontliners in any way, but choice is very limited right now in frontliners. In mid-caps, the choice is plenty. I think there are many stocks. The fact is, investors need to be a little bit patient. Even ICSA, since you are mentioning, and since we track that company very closely, and an disclosure right now that we have an exposure for our clients in this particular stock. I think, allow me to say the stock was, if I'm not mistaken, just less than 3 weeks ago was available at around 260 levels, against 390 levels. A 50% rise in 3 weeks. I think not many stocks are given. I think yes, definitely a Shruti. I think people will have to do the wait and watch attitude and buy selectively in the mid caps. I think there are plenty of opportunities available.
50% rise is a stock like RNRL, which has posted 48% plus in a month. How are you playing that counter and the entire dispute between RNRL, RIL?
Simple admission on my part, I don't understand this company, and I personally feel that companies in which you cannot define as to what sort of revenues the company will earn, I think possibly investors would do well to stay away from. Nothing against the company in any way, but then I can't define the valuations in RNRL at all.
How is sentiment as a whole now, Mehraboon, amongst market participants and retail investors?
I think people have shown a lot of courage, allow me to say it. Rahul, the type of beating which they have taken, I think in my more than 20 years career in this market, I have never seen the way people have lost money over the last 6 months. Virtually, market cap has come down very sharply. The net worth of high net worth investors also have come down, but they have shown a lot of resilience, I would say. They have decided to hang out. But at the moment, if you're asking me, considering the fact that we have gone up by 20%, people are still very skeptical. People still feel that possibly will come down again. The fact is, at the end of it all, while people realize the fact that bargain valuations are available only in challenging times and only in bad times, the investments which you make are ultimately going to give you the best possible returns. I think people like to believe that, but don't like to act that way. I think after having gone out 20% nearly, I think there are still some people who are still feeling that should we enter now? The fact is they lost out on opportunities. The fact is when the index came down 12,500, 13,000, 13,500, people are saying we may see 9,000, 10,000, 11,000. But not many were ready to accept the fact that a 13,000 at least going to become a 15,000 or 16,000 in the next 2 to 3 months and end up giving me at least 20 to 30% returns on most stocks, which ultimately happened.
Just about a couple of minutes to go before the markets actually close for today. 36 points higher is where the Sensex is at, 45.21 is where the Nifty is at. You think volatility is here to stay, Mehraboon, regardless of what range or which way the market breaks out? Do you think in whichever directional call it takes, it will not be a linear move, but it will continue to be a very volatile market?
Rahul, I have also stated this way that while I don't like to predict the indices, I also mentioned that 12 to 18,000 is a wide range which I'm expecting the markets to move over the next 12 to 15 months, and that is too wide a range, allow me to state, and that is going to provide a lot of opportunities. And definitely when you get a lot of opportunities and such a wide range, it is going to lead to volatility staying in this market.
You think we might touch the lower end of that range once again, Mehraboon? Because even from 12,000 we're a long way off. You think we might test those levels again?
Which level you're referring to, 12,000 or you're talking of 18,000?
Well, 18,000 we live in hope, but you think we might test those 12,000 levels again?
A very difficult call. I think if you see oil going back to 135 and again people are talking of inflation going to the 14% over the next 3 months, I think yes, we can possibly have a sharp dip again, but let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's hope oil cools down a little bit further, and possibly you will then say that 18,000 is not very wishful thinking as much as what you are saying right now, Shruti.
Meanwhile, the markets have closed, as you were speaking, Mehraboon. Consumer durables index will close 3% higher. The auto banks, the auto bank and real estate indices will close between 3/4 to 1.25% higher for themselves. And on the way down, the capital goods index and the power index will close roughly about a percentage point down between themselves. The overall advanced decline ratio on final closing, given the relatively okay outperformance of the mid and small cap index, 644 stocks advancing to 579 declining, so just a little better than 1:1, not even 1.5:1. The mid cap index and the small cap index will close about 0.4 of a percentage point higher between them, but it'll have to be Dr. Reddy's that'll be the clear star in trade today from the frontliners. Will close close to about 4% higher. The reason I say that is because it's been a consistent move from start to close. Tata Motors has had a good move, as has Maruti. Both those stocks are up about 3 to 4%. Mahindra a couple of percentage points. Sterlite has rallied very hard to a 4% move, and HDFC and HDFC Bank about 3.5 percentage points between them. So good moves on those stocks. On the way down though, we said capital goods, BHEL is the biggest culprit, they're 3.5% down. RPL, RCOM, Z, the other stocks that are down about a couple of percentage points. But it's been a tough afternoon for the telecommunications stocks. Bharti 2%, Reliance Communications about 2% down, Tata Communications about 1.5% down. And beyond the index, Shruti's been mentioning RNRL, and that is pretty much one of the stocks that's dominated trade this afternoon as well in terms of volumes. In fact, the volumes on RNRL are about 5.2 crore shares traded on that. GHCL, we were discussing that a little earlier. We closed 10% up on 49 lakh shares traded there. 1.5 crore shares traded on Dish TV with a 13% move. Ansar Properties, 16% move. 63 lakh shares traded. MTNL, Moser Bayer, Tata Tele, Maharashtra, some of the other stocks that are closed 3 to 4% higher. And sugar has cooled off. Renuka, Triveni are down between 1 to 4%. So extremely stock specific, but anything that you've specifically picked up from the future side?
Well, Rahul, first the fact that we've managed to remain at a premium for the better half of this day, which means that there is some kind of buying. Of course, the skeptics would argue that it's short covering, not genuine buying, and we'll only know that when the final Bhav copy is out later this evening. But there seems to be a much greater sense of confidence in the current series compared to what we have been seeing in the last series.
You think any sort of up move will probably be capped at around 4,600 because you saw about a 10% build up at 4,600 calls. 44, 4,500 puts have been active, about 30-40% between them. Did you get the sense, looking at the futures data, that 4,600 is where it's at for the moment? You know,
from a technical perspective, yesterday's trade was extremely important because we tested 4,650. We touched that, and then we saw an extremely swift fall from that level. And what happens when that occurs is that the upside resistance gets strengthened. So for this index, 4,600, 4,650 is now an extremely strong resistance for it to break out of.
Anything that you spotted on the stock specific side though?
Well, really, the action has not been confined just to the frontliners in the futures and options side. We've seen the sugar pack, which has been buzzing for the last 3 trading sessions, continues to buzz. Certain mid-cap stocks like Reliance Petro and, of course, RNRL that are also continuing to be trading favorites.
All right, we'll get some more details on that in just a little bit, a little later on the show, when Shruti has some more numbers to work with. To be fair, the markets have just closed. But Mehraboon, do you track any of these stocks? Dish TV, GHCL, Moser Bayer, any of these?
Moser Bayer stopped tracking it, I think. Possibly, I would say I've given up on this stock for the last 15-18 months. I don't mind checking it again if the volumes are going up at the counter. Dish TV, yes. I think Dish TV could be a very interesting long-term play, has its own risk attached to it. And looking at the way the stock price has come down very sharply over the last 6 to 9 months, yes, we don't have no disclosures to be made as of right now, but this is definitely on my radar.
What about sugar as a sector?
Sugar, I think I continue to state what I have said, that we are quite positive on sugar over the long term. But such sharp moments which come like what came yesterday and what came in the first part of the session on news of whatever, on rumors of whatever, of the ethanol, considering that the oil has come down, various type of rumors float in this market. The factors that we wouldn't like to term it as a short-term play. I think sugar cycle possibly, I think the worst in the sugar sector possibly could be coming to an end, and I personally feel things could improve for this industry. So over the long term, yes, this is an interesting sector, but I would like to stick to the frontline stocks like Balrampur, Bajaj Hindustan, or even a Sri Renuka Sugar. But I think in the short term, people are going to lose their patience because the time is still not ripe for short-term investors to buy into the sector.
Right, Mehraboon, stay on. We'll head into a break, come back, get closing comments from Mehraboon as well, as analyze the internals of the market on the commodity side, future side, how our trading calls fared. All that when we return, tell you that the markets have closed virtually flat. 29 points higher for the Sensex, and Nifty has closed 3 points higher. Back with closing thoughts from our guest when we return. Stay tuned.